as AI continues to grow as an industry, it's going to be harder and harder to differentiate between what's like thought leadership and what's something that ChatGPT wrote and is being presented as thought leadership.
You say you're an expert, but now the machine is creating the content for you. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. I want certainty that I'm actually connecting with a real human, a real person.
Here's a question I will encourage everybody to ask whenever you create something like this. If you publish it with your name and you feel proud to put your name on that piece of content, perfect. Go ahead and do it. If you think like, man, I don't think I should put my name on this, then rethink your process and go ahead and go create again and do something that you feel proud to put your name on this.
For an audience, like, what are you doing that's setting yourself apart, right? I think the rinse and repeat and doing what people have been doing before you can be really difficult when it comes to growth.
And keeping track of those goals, whatever those goals are for you individually. I think that's...
We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I
Luis.
know you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast. Hey! I got it right this time. Guys, welcome back.
Decent.
Decent. Thank you. That's what I deal with every day. Everybody, guys, if you're enjoying the show, please go ahead and follow in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media. Also, YouTube, go watch our faces because our guest faces are incredible. Our faces are incredible and the content is great too. Just saying.
Wow. The ego's flying high. I like it. I like it. It's called confidence.
Hey, I was on a call yesterday and the person on the other call, my coach, she was like, "You look radiant today." I was like, I will take it. I've been working out straight for almost a month now.
Proud of you. Proud of you.
5 a.m., 6 a.m. workouts. I feel great.
You're crushing it. You're crushing
A little
it.
sore, but I feel great.
Yeah, you're setting a good example in there. You're getting in shape for the future finals we're gonna be playing.
Hey, I saw a picture. You know those Facebook memories that come out? You know, ones that it's like 12 years ago, prime moment, playing D1 soccer, you know, running, sprinting. And I was like, baby, here we go. At 34, 35, I'm gonna get back to the best shape of my life.
There we go. I like it. I like it.
Story of comeback.
It's a good goal.
Today's not about that. Today is about updates on an incredible event called Inbound from the company that sponsors the show, Hubspot, and we bring one of our favorite people. We played pinball with her. We walked to conferences with her.
He taught us the way.
That's
right.
And I think a couple weeks ago, you listened to one of her episodes, which highly recommend. We talked about communities, engagement, what's happening in the content creation world, and today we're gonna bring you some more of those updates. Guys, with that said, please welcome the boss and professional pinball player, Carly
Baker! Ho-ho, let's go, Carly!
Woo-hoo. Hey y'all, thanks for having me back. I'm super excited to be back on and get to share everything that's been going on since Inbound.
Let's go. I appreciate you, Carly. You're like the only one that laughs at my brother's jokes. I'm gonna say that. My brother's here, like, you know, ripping the intro, and you're laughing. I'm like, wow, she's so nice.
Hey Carly, here. This is good for me today because this afternoon we have our first like parent-teacher conference from like my son's like school. And
Okay,
I'm
how are you
prepping all the
feeling?
jokes. I'm gonna crack them all. I'm gonna be like, everybody's gonna be like, we love that dad. And then Katie's gonna just walk up and be like, I hate this dude. Why did I marry him?
Well, if everybody loves you, you're gonna be stuck with all the parents' meetings
It's okay, man.
forever.
Hey, it's okay. I'm repping. Camejos. Let's go. Hey, maybe we can get like 20 new people into the podcast, you know? Be like,
It's all a networking opportunity.
always.
Yes.
But Carly, we're stoked that you're back. Obviously, you know, a couple of weeks ago we released an audio-only episode, so you know, go find it, go listen to it, which is incredible. And then you were like on the cusp of leaving to Inbound 2023,
Yes.
which is like this massive, incredible event. A couple of clients are speakers there, and you guys have thousands of people throughout a whole week of things. And we personally haven't been there yet, but hopefully next year we'll be there. But you bring us some updates.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's been, I know, when I spoke to you last, I was just off of podcast movement. Now I'm just off of Inbound. And for me, event season is over, which is always sad. It's so awesome to be in person. But I think, you know, this is my second Inbound, and it's been so exciting to see how the business has changed so much since last Inbound and sort of everything that's new. And I think like the two or three things that I noticed the most this year in terms of how it's been different and what the business focus is like HubSpot has gone all in on AI. So this has been, of course, something that we released earlier this year. That's been a huge amount of buzz, being, one of the first CRM companies to have AI tools that are like natively integrated into the platform. So that was super exciting when it was released earlier this year. And at Inbound, during our spotlight session, they dropped even more AI tools, which is awesome. So I'll share a little bit now about sort of what we're doing in the AI space. I think one of the most exciting things that we're doing, so we had released Chatspot, which is a bot that's in the CRM that can basically is like ChatGPT, but for your CRM. And so we had Chatspot, which is much more data focused. And then we also have Campaign Assistant, which helps you create copy for landing pages, emails, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, like all sorts of digital properties. And what's great about that tool is that all of the prompts are built into the platform. So this is like one of the biggest challenges I think that we see with folks using AI, is that figuring out what prompts to use is super, super difficult. So at HubSpot, we built in all of the prompts so that you have options, and it's super easy, makes it super quick. And like anyone that doesn't have a lot of experience maybe using AI or doing prompts, it's super accessible. So those are sort of the two main tools that we had. And they released that Inbound that we actually are going to have like an AI website builder, which I think is insane.
That's insane.
We have a drag and drop website builder already that's part of one of our hubs, but being able to go in and create a website in like under 5 minutes, like landing pages, templates, all of that stuff, all done by AI, is just like totally blew my mind. I think websites are like super, super hard. And I'm curious, I know that you work with a lot of clients, like what's been your experience sort of using AI tools lately, and how are you using it yourself within your content?
Yeah, well, Fonzie hates it. I love it. No, I'm kidding.
I don't hate it.
Fonzie, I want to hear your hot takes.
Those are
Give
like
me your hot AI
the official takes. But I guess on my side, I think in general, we like to tinker, right? And go experience new things. I mean, just the other day we were trying a new tool that Fonzie found after a conversation with a founder of another tech tool, right? And we're like, wow, this is a great relationship management at the personal level, right? And it's like, hey, if I'm going to Orlando, for example, like who's there? And he like on the back end, it kind of connects everything and relationships and what we talked about, and it's incredible, especially like in the world that we move in right now. But as far as like on the content world, I mean, we look at the phases of production, for example, or on the content side, or where are we utilizing the content for? And there's definitely, I lean towards, yes, let's use AI to assist us in that process, because it's going to be faster. Two, it might bring some new ideas also into the table. Like, for example, this morning we're just talking about this company that we've been assisting with like their studio and like their journey in content creation, right? Their CEO, they have a studio where they're recording, and the way that they record is they have these scripts that maybe somebody preps for them, and then he goes and reads it out of a teleprompter. And I'm like, well, we just dig in a little bit more on like, how are they creating? Do you have to drive to this location to go it? Maybe he's traveling, maybe he's doing something else. And we just want technology to help us in specifically in our world in content creation. So for him, we're like, hey, there's this app, which is, by the way, is called Captions. We're not affiliated, but we have it on our phone, and it's grown massively with the help of AI, for example. So you can give him, like you said, a couple prompts or a couple indicators, like, hey, I'm going to talk about X topic. Can you break down these 5 things and break it out? And initially, like the AI will create like an initial script that you can modify, you can add yours, and then you can use it as a teleprompter on your phone. And then AI has a technology that then it will shift your eyes towards like if you are looking to the camera, even though you are reading, and it looks very natural. So it's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So guess what? In like 2 minutes, you created a rough script, you modified it, you added to other teleprompter, you recorded the content, and then it adds the social captions that everybody wants in under 2-3 minutes, right? So it's an incredible tool. Like, so for me, yes, absolutely. And, this is on the content side. And then you have things like Hubspot is releasing right now, where it's, on your CRM, things that help you improve your relationships, your sales, your speed of communication, right? Your points of contact, quality. I think to me, like it's really good, but at the same time, it's like, okay, what's the other side of the coin? Which is, some of those things that we can talk about later, right?
Yeah. So what is my hot take?
Fonzie's hot take.
At first, I think a lot of people were just using it to try to substitute themselves out of something, and that's what I'm not a fan of, especially in the creative space. I'm like, okay, you say you're an expert, but now the machine is creating the content for you. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever, So for me, it's a matter of like, I see the value, obviously, in AI. I think it can definitely cut the times of, certain tasks by a lot. But I'm not a fan of the people that try to substitute themselves completely with it. Now, tools that can help you become more efficient, like, that's amazing. I think that's where the gold is going to be. But at the same time, my future prediction is that people are going to start seeking more in-person things, right? Like connections, experiences, just because there's going to be so much AI and you're not going to be able to distinguish what was created with AI or what wasn't, that I want certainty that I'm actually connecting with a real human, a real person. So I'm going to go to a live event. I'm going to shake hands, right? Unless AI evolves into some sort of robot, which, maybe it's going to be soon. Yeah, I saw
was it the Chargers game that they did AI robots for promotion of a movie?
It was so freaky.
Yeah.
They did like a zooming in one of those things. I was like, this thing is freaky. But going back to the main thing, as tools to leverage, I think it's amazing, right? Like one of the tools that my brother is talking about, we're not affiliated with them, but I find it amazing. Me specifically, I'm a geek at researching, at, capturing ideas, like what is the best possible way so then I can access them and I cannot just forget them, right? And the tool is called Lazy. And I'm like, that's perfect, It's like lazy people find some, creative ways to deal with problems. I was like, I love the name of this app.
He was literally chasing the CEO on Twitter and emails like, give me access for like 6 months. And they finally gave it to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they...
Love that.
Yeah, I think I managed to like skip through the wait line just because I was...
you were persistent.
I was persistent. And when they did the onboarding, I was like, this is awesome. Like, sure, it has an AI included in there that, depending on the prompt, it could potentially create the concept for the content for you, etc. But for me, how I see it is using the AI, the power to, add context, to quickly capture ideas, to quickly, maybe it can help me brainstorm certain things. Maybe it can help me, build some frameworks or have some kind of like a plan when I want to take some action, and then I'm the one that goes and execute, right? So like it facilitates. And I like when the AI tools are used in that sense. But when people try to replace themselves completely, I'm like, no, that's not. Like, honestly, for me, that's like, well, it in a way makes me look down, and I'm doing here air quotes, to that person. Because I'm like, well, it sounds like you don't want to do the job. Like, you're the expert, but you're just trying to avoid, that work. Like, if you're the expert, like, am I just going to source to an AI the 3 ways to crush it at podcasting? No, but I can ask AI, hey, can you give me, what are maybe 3 different ideas of content that I can create? And they can say 3 ways on how to crush podcasting. I was like, all right, cool. Now I tune into my brain, right? Or into Lazy to see what ideas I have captured in the past that I can build into that, and I created off of my own experience and my own knowledge, and I'm not sourcing it off of the, internet, and, because AI, obviously, whatever, we're not going to go into the back end of how that works, but, I'm not going to be sourcing that idea off of, whatever information was fed into that AI, but into my own. So, yeah, pretty much like that. Anybody that wants to throw hands, come at me.
I mean, I love the...
Yeah, go ahead.
I love the focus on frameworks. I use that a lot myself, just in terms of like, I want to write an article. Here's what I want to write about. Like, help me, write a framework or break down the content strategy within that article. So I use it for that all the time, which I think is really helpful. I think that there's definitely a line. I think when we think about the sheer amount of content that's already being published every day on the internet before AI, I think it's so much more now that these tools are really accessible. And so I agree that I think in the future there will be even more of a shift towards having those genuine, like person to person, connection to connection, you know, that's going to become a lot more important because, you know, the sea of content just got even bigger. And I think as AI continues to grow as an industry, it's going to be harder and harder to differentiate between what's like thought leadership and what's something that ChatGPT wrote and is being presented as thought leadership. So I think it's important in terms of tools. I do want to talk about this tool specifically for creators and also for like business coaches, course creators, sort of outside of the general creator sphere. We actually work with Cast Magic, which is an incredible sort of post-production tool. And this, I think, is a really good, it gives a lot of frameworks that really simplify a lot of the post-production, just like what takes up so much time in post-production, right? So Cast Magic is very simple. You basically put in a file. It can be an audio file of your show. It can be like a video or audio from your Zoom meeting. Maybe you've done coaching or something, and it gives you frameworks for every single thing that you could think of. It gives you a newsletter framework, blog framework. It gives you really, like, I think arguably probably the best transcription, like AI transcription of those files that I've ever seen. It gives you timestamps. Like, it makes the post-production side of being a creator or being a coach so much easier because it spits that out. Would I suggest that someone like copies that and immediately like publishes it on their website without like reading it? Absolutely not. I think that there's definitely like hesitancies and things that you need to think about when you're taking these assets that are made for you and reusing them. But from a productivity and like bandwidth standpoint, I think tools like this are really compelling. And I think it's interesting now that they've launched mostly as like a podcast and YouTube tool and are now expanding so much more to be inclusive in terms of the types of assets that they give. So just wanted to shout out Cast Magic.
Yeah, we love Cast Magic.
They're doing is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we had Evan on the show, right? Like, and Evans. No, wait.
Oh, like who's Evans?
It's not Evan. Wait.
No. He's clearly not good with the names.
But no, there's
it's
500
Ramon.
plus. Crap. What's his name?
He's gonna look it up. Blaine.
My goodness.
Blaine, it's Blaine and Ramon.
Huh?
It's Blaine and Ramon from
Blaine and
BBC
Ramon.
Pod.
My goodness.
I'm like, who's
Sorry,
Evan?
Blaine, I love you.
I'm gonna clip this part and send it to him. I hope when we run this episode through Cast Magic, it picks up this part and then as a clip, and then we'll send it to him.
What I was gonna say is like with Cast Magic, we started using it for our own show, right? And we're like, wow, this is like the process. Like just we saved at least 2 hours per episode on some of the things that we gotta do on the processing for the clipping, for example, or like the background information on some of the copy. But like you said, right, like it's this sounding board that you'd be like, okay, this is like a path maybe that I want to take, and then I can develop it a little bit more. But you know, thinking about especially in the content creation world, like we talk a lot about resources, which most people think about money. But also, like, what's our resource on time? What's our thought energy? What's like, are we in a high energy level, right? I was on the phone with our brother who also creates content in Colombia, right? And it was like 8:30 p.m. He's like, yeah, I'm just sitting down. I got to record, 5 to 6 reels. And I'm like, man, at 9 p.m., what the heck? Like, why aren't we choosing like our high energy day? And I get it. Like with entrepreneurs, there's a lot of problems that we're solving every single day, calls, meetings, X, Y, Z. And it might not be like the perfect time that we're going to create content on the high energy type of thing. So these tools, I think, helps a ton. And it's like doing an inventory, like where am I lacking? Like where do I need help? Is there a tool that can help us with this? For example, there's another one with this one with Cast Magic, you can just put your Zoom meeting and you can select the preset for like meetings or coaching, and it gives you a bunch of prompts of like, okay, action items or things, and it recognizes pretty accurately and be like, okay, here's my follow-up email with the action items that we need to take. And I think it's super useful for many aspects, right? And I think it's very exciting because you can customize your flow. But again, it doesn't take the fact that you need to go and execute. You need to go and be the expert. And here's maybe an example where, as content creators, and I would love your feedback too, and with your creators on YouTube as well. But, for us, we're like always thinking like, what do we talk about? Every time somebody's going to launch a podcast or work with us, right? One of the concerns is like, what do we actually say? And most people that we work with, they've been in their industry for a bunch of years. So like they are experts because they live it, they breathe it, like they help people, they solve their problems. It's just we need a way to unlock that from their heads and their thoughts into a camera, right? So one example of this was a lot of people ask us all the time about equipment. Like, what is the equipment that you're using? What is like, and we could potentially do a course on it. We haven't done it. Like, and part of it is like, man, I just don't want to sit down here for 3 hours and trying to like distill all this stuff. And we were at the conference with you, and there was a guy that came in. We got introduced by one of our partners, and the guy's like, hey, he's looking to start a podcast. What equipment should we use? So we started asking questions. We're like, okay, do you have a budget? Like, do you have a studio? Do you have a location? And then we started having this conversation, and the conversation lasted, I think, almost an hour and a half, where we ended up with like a $100 setup, like $1,000 setup, and then like the best of the best. And it was incredible. It was like an hour, and those couple questions like unlock that. And that's what AI can do for you, right? You can start having a conversation with AI based on information that you can fit it, right? And then from there, use your expertise to develop more of that content, and then that becomes something super cool.
One of my favorite use of AI is actually have a conversation with it, be like, I want to learn a random fact. It's like throw me a random entrepreneurial fact, and then it like brings up some history lesson in there about somebody that created something cool that I've never known about. I was like, wow, that is so cool, right? And then I forget it like 2 hours later, but it's pretty entertaining at the moment.
So Carly, apart from Cast Magic, right? Like, what are some creative ways that you've seen? I mean, maybe in the conference, you know, in Inbound, you saw some very amazing use cases for maybe content creators and business owners.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you saw that you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have like launched, you know, all of these tools, and have a couple more tools that were announced that are coming down the pipeline. One of the things that I'm most excited about is we are going to be, and I believe it's in private beta right now, but it should be released to users by the end, like all HubSpot users by the end of the year, is that we are releasing an AI social caption generator. So our marketing hub is you can post, like you can connect all your social accounts, and this has a pretty seamless connection there, but we're now adding social specific caption generators, which I think is so interesting. Like when I think about AI, and when I think about a lot of the most popular tools that are out there, like Bard, ChatGPT, a lot of them that are well known do not have a specific use case. They have so many use cases that they can be used for so many different things. And so what I think is awesome about, you know, the first tools that we released were definitely a little bit more broad, and now we're going like super niche. So like AI website builder, social caption generator, where we now have an AI tool that will like go through your website, go through any of your content, and provide like SEO optimized recommendations for AI. So like, I think what's awesome about what we're doing at HubSpot is that it makes it super easy to implement. Whereas if you're like on ChatGPT, you're on another platform, you have to transfer it over to another platform. It's not built to like necessarily know how to optimize a paragraph for SEO. So that's what I love about this, is that they're very specific tools that are solving for like very specific pain points, right? So if you think about like, it's super hard to develop an SEO strategy for your business, for your landing pages, just in general, right? SEO is something that takes people, there's a big barrier to entry to learn about SEO, right? So if you think about, okay, SEO is really hard, but we know the importance of search, especially with the way that search is elevated and is now so much more on social platforms, and is not just what you see on Google, right? So knowing that you have a tool that can fix that pain point for you and only do that specific thing, I think is really exciting. And I think like Cast Magic and the tool that you mentioned are other examples of this, where like, it's serving a very niche pain point or a niche audience of people that have this problem, but the only thing that it does is that. And so it's only serving that community. And I think that those tools are a lot easier to use while their audience might be smaller compared to like ChatGPT, which is just kind of like the Google of AI, I guess. Not that they should be related, you know, the search part of it is obviously very different, and we know what's going on with ChatGPT. But I do think it's interesting, the more niche tools that are coming up, and I think that's also a really big focus for HubSpot and our AI tools. What I love to, you know, on YouTube, this is very interesting because we've seen an explosion of faceless channels. So of folks that use AI voices, they use AI graphics, they use AI generated B-roll. There is not what we would think about as like it being a creator focused channel, because you're not actually seeing the person that's working behind the scenes. And so, you know, for someone like me who works with YouTubers and spends a lot of time on the platform looking for channels and looking for creators to work with, it's been interesting to test sort of my own like moral and ethical standpoints about AI, because for me, I would much rather, you know, my initial thought was I would much rather work with a YouTube channel where it's a person. There's a creator that's on screen, that's maybe using B-roll or using AI for other aspects of it, but you're having that sort of parasocial relationship that a lot of people have with YouTubers, right? You're seeing them, you're seeing your body language, you're connecting with them. And I actually came across this AI channel today. I think it's called How to AI. I'll send it and we can put it in the show notes so people can check it out. But all it is 5 to 10 minute AI generated videos that teach you how to use AI tools.
Interesting.
But they have this like AI generated woman she's like on this kind of the side. So if you're thinking about the video, she's kind of off to the side. They're showing the tool on the right side, but it's an AI voice. It's an AI generated 3D character. Everything that they're showing is all AI tools. And I just was like, I can't get behind this. Like I am upset, like watching this video, like this feels like it's gone too far. And there's a discussion now of like, I'm kind of tempted to try to work with this channel because I think it's very interesting of like, I want to know, I'm so curious about who the person behind this channel is, right? Like, because we're not getting any social cues from them. And I think it is interesting, especially in the video space, as like Midjourney and image generators and now like voice generators, all these things are coming. It's really sort of testing and challenging our perception of what creators are. So I would love to hear both of your thoughts about sort of AI generated creators and voices and all of those things.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of those. I've actually seen a lot of ads of people selling those faceless channels. Actually, yesterday I was watching a video from one of those. I think I sent it to you.
How to build those faceless channels.
Yeah.
That's been huge too. There's so much content, like how to make $50,000 with your faceless YouTube channel. I feel like that's everywhere too.
Yeah. I mean, and I think
it's like the new Amazon drop.
I think the drop shipping. Yeah. I think that the promise on that is they're mainly selling to, it's going to sound awful, but lazy people, like people that don't want to put in the work. Like the message sounds like that is like, you can make money quick with this by making faceless channels, right? Or having AI do the work for you. But I did see a video of one guy that has a channel with only one video. The video has, I was trying to look it up in here. I cannot find it right now. But the video has, I don't know if it's already in the millions, but it has so many views. And he did say that he spent a lot of time building this video with AI. So it is not that simple as well, right? It's not like you just put some prompts and then the video's magically created, right? You're using multiple tools. The editing, specifically the editing part, that does take a human. Like you can, edit some stuff with AI, but it's not gonna give you, those motion graphics, like this,
the emotion,
that
feeling,
that retention, that emotional editing that a real editor can put behind, like that is not it. So on these faceless channels, there's still a creator behind it, right? It's more like an architect. Like, they are not the face of it, but there's still some sort of architect. And you can tell who put effort into it and who didn't put effort into it. It's easily, like, spottable, if that's even a word, right? So it goes back to what we were talking before. Am I having a conversation with a real human? Like, do I know, or, I want to know I'm actually talking to a person rather than, consuming from a machine. And even though they're open about using these AI tools, you can tell they use them as tools and then they put it together as an architect, right? And they design these videos rather than some other videos that you can tell, oh, that was just like slapped together in like 5 minutes. And usually those videos are like very topical, right? Like trending events, a little bit of drama, things that a lot of people look for. that they can capitalize on quick, and they can get a lot of attention quick and get a lot of views, and then, obviously profit off of that from YouTube. Those videos are usually slapped pretty quick, and you can tell this is all AI generated, but there's not an architect behind it. Now, there's some other ones like the one I mentioned that are insane, and you're like, wow. Yeah. There was a lot of work into this, like coming up with the right prompts to create good quality imagery, right? Like that is difficult to have. Again, the other thing is like AI can generate a script, but then you need the knowledge of the person to actually optimize that script, right? To arrange that script in a way that is going to be successful in YouTube. And that takes a lot of experience, right? Yeah. It's not just like, oh yeah, create this and then copy and paste. So what I think about this challenge is like, it's an interesting movement, right? There's a lot of people, and I actually made a post, kind of related to it. It was one of those like Facebook questions, they put in. It was like the dichotomy of creating content, but also keeping your life private, right? And I think this gives an opportunity for creators to create and at the same time not be the face, because some people, they don't want to be the face. They don't want to be the attractive character. They just want to create awesome content and that's it, right? Yeah. Yesterday I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with David Perel. He writes essays. He teaches people how to write essays. And he goes and, he's talking about this Twitter account. It's called The Culture Tutor. I don't know if you've heard about him. He's pretty big. Awesome essays. I found out about him literally like 2 weeks ago. And yesterday I heard this story. The guy said that he was going to put all his content behind a paywall, pretty much. He was going to put it on his email list. And this guy's like, no, David is like, no, you shouldn't do that, right? Like, you should, just continue to publish here. And then he managed to get a hold of him. This guy turns out to be working at a McDonald's, right? But again, he isn't writing. He finds out that he isn't writing because he wants to be famous. He just writes because he loves to write. He loves that art, right? Like he doesn't necessarily wants to be the attractive character. Yeah. And David is like, okay, how much do you need, right? To just write full time. So he pretty much is funding him, right? He's funding his writing, which I thought was pretty cool, right? And then, but relating that to the AI, this guy doesn't put his face, right? His name is Culture Tutor. It's not, John Evans, whatever, or Evans. My brother likes that name, apparently.
Blaine, I love you, brother.
So, I think it's an interesting movement because it allows those creators to flourish as well. Yeah. But there needs to be there's still a lot of work, and there's still a lot of knowledge that has to go into it. And at the end of the day, the quality ones are going to come to the top, and the not so good ones are, I think, the attention spams and the focus of people are going to determine which ones are going to be good or not at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think one question that I like people to answer, like if they're considering this, is like, what type of creator do you want to be, right? Like, we were fighting content for so long before we launched the show, years, and we couldn't be consistent. We couldn't be frequent, right? And to us, those are the two most important metrics. If you are consistent, you have frequency, then you can measure anything else, and you can learn from your data, and you can learn from your experiences, and you can learn from your process, right? And you can improve every single day. But if those are not there, then what's the point, right? So again, you can achieve those, whether that's a faceless channel or an attractive character channel. And for us, podcasting was a way to do that, right? And that's podcasting has been our vehicle to communicate. And we happen to enjoy being on camera, for example, right? So if we don't like being on camera, then it will probably be an audio-only podcast supported by different footage. And again, these are all tools in your toolbox to make the production a little bit better, right? That's eventually like how I see it, right? Whenever you're building a business, right? You might execute on some things that you might not enjoy, right? And then you're like, okay, what tool or what person can go in and replace myself, and they can elevate that activity. With content, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, in my content creation process, right? Going from, figuring out what I'm going to say to record it to then distribute it, right? At the basic level. What do I enjoy the most? Well, I enjoy being on camera. I don't enjoy research. Fonzie does enjoy a lot of the research, right? I might watch a YouTube video, grab one idea, and then comment on that, for example, but he likes to go deep. Well, perfect. I recognize that about myself. Kind of find a tool that's AI assisted that can help me with that.
if I don't like to be on camera, perfect. What's the solution? Well, let's go and look in the market. Should we hire somebody that can be on camera for us? Should we go and find one of these like AI robots that do it for you? Do you animate it? Like there's different ways. And I think like that's the fun part about
those
content.
are creepy though. I'm going to say the AI robots that are like just one person standing like that are super creepy.
Yeah, imagine they advertise it for like company trainings. I will fall asleep right off the bat. Like 2 seconds in, that's it. There's like, it's not effective. I'm very curious to see if those trainings are actually effective. Like if you run some of those trainings, if you have experience, let me know, because like my bet is that they're not effective at all. But that's my take, is like decide what kind of content creator you want to take, do an inventory of like what do you like to do, what you don't like to do, and then from there it's like perfect, make a decision on like how are you gonna substitute those activities that you don't want to do. Is that an AI, is that a tool, is that somebody else that comes in your process? So anyways, I think it's super awesome because now we have many opportunities to improve and be different, which is like that's the core of content. Like how can you be different, right? And I think it's very exciting times that we're living.
Yeah, I think people need to find their how, for sure.
For sure. No, I love the idea of the creator architect. I think that that's so fun. And I think that that's actually like widely applicable among creators sort of on every platform and every sphere, because there really is so much, all of this, all content is built on frameworks and strategy and like, architecture and all these things. So I love the idea of the creator architect. I think it's interesting, just to go back to YouTube really quick. I think it's interesting, like the difference between, if you think about like the difference between a faceless channel. So let's say like a channel that's doing like business documentaries and they're talking about some topic, I don't know, the economy or something, and they're using super compelling B-roll. They have like all customs, and it's a person that's just doing a voiceover, but it's the like actually the voice of the creator. I feel like that's in a different sphere than someone that's using an AI voice and using an AI robot and is using all AI graphics. And what I love about YouTube and what I think is awesome about the sort of explosion and popularity of authentic faceless channels is that it gives creators who have content that maybe might not be well suited for audio content, they need that visual aspect, and you're no longer on YouTube required to share that amount or to show your face to be able to make money, to be able to be a creator in that way. And so I do think that that's been a really exciting expansion, especially in the YouTube and video space, now that there's a lot of opportunities for that. But going back to, what you both shared, it is kind of, it's the next drop shipping. It's the next Amazon affiliate thing that you're seeing. It's the next coloring book, ebook templates, those types of trends run rampant on YouTube. And I do think that it is a little bit of a fad now, but I have seen some channels that do it really, really well and have massive audiences and are super thoughtful with like, especially channels that do a lot of research or are talking about like super fact-based stuff. Like if they're depending on ChatGPT to write that, we know it does not do well because it's outdated factually. So I think it's interesting to think about, sort of the differences between those two types of things, but also seeing YouTube as a vehicle to not only be a face first, I guess, platform.
And by the way, if you are a creator, like a faceless creator, we would love to hear from you, and we can keep the video as an AI video if you want.
We'll blur the face.
That would be incredible. Like we would love to have that feedback and that conversation to see like what the process goes. But I
want to add something real quick about an AI generated video. But
give me a second. Please.
No, just in case you wanted to change the topic.
I'm not going to change the topic. Okay. Cool. This is good. Well, here's an example of like, for example, the podcast, like How to Take Over the World, like Ben Wilson, like a good friend of the show. He was here under a different topic and he's coming back to talk about his show, but he tells stories, right? He does a lot of research. He reads a lot of books. Like that's a show, for example, that I see a lot of the AI generated imagery because like it can bring that to the audience, right? On the YouTube channel, for example, I can enhance the experience. And I've tried it, like for example, ChatGPT has an integration with, I think it's like a Vista editor or something like that for video, and then also with Canva, they just released it, right? So directly from ChatGPT, you can do a bunch of prompts, and then it will create designs, and it will create actually a full video. I've tried it, right? Here's the thing. Here's the question I will encourage everybody to ask whenever you create something like this. If you publish it with your name, it's like, this is created by Luis Camejo, Luis Bizbros, right? and you feel proud to put your name on that piece of content, perfect. Go ahead and do it. If you think like, man, like, I don't think I should put my name on this, then rethink your process and go ahead and go create again and do something that you feel proud to put your name on this, right? This was, I think, one of the people that we connected over Instagram a couple of years. I can't remember his name, but he's big on branding. And he's like, from now on, my whole team is going to put their name on the piece of content that they create, kind of like an artist, because we feel proud of it. And I thought that was so incredible, right? So
I love that.
You know, and that's something that we revisit. We might not revisit it as often as we should, right? And again, we talked about, you know, what are those levels that you like your content, right? Fonzie likes it probably a lot higher than I do, right? And it's like, what's the compromise as a business, for example? That's a conversation that every business has to have. But it's like, you are creating as a creator, is that something that you feel very proud to put out to the world? If the answer is yes, awesome. Go ahead and publish it, gather feedback, and then elevate. The next one is going to be a lot better. So I just wanted to add that because for us it was very impactful. We're like, wow, especially for client work, right? We're like, you know, we're not just going through the motions. We're doing something that we really feel proud of. And that's something that Fonzie mentions to the team every single day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my biggest things. It's like, dude, I'm not proud of sharing this thing. Like, take it back to the, you know.
CBB can be better.
Can be better.
I love that.
I just wanted to comment
can be better.
about this. I found one of the AI videos that I was talking about. And fun element that I think this was really good. So his channel is called Isaac. That's it. And I think he has 2 videos. And his first video has 140,000 views, you know, which is pretty uncommon for a channel that only has like one video, you know.
Yeah.
And he just released a second video not too long ago, so I gotta check how many views that one has. But something that I found interesting here is I feel like he applies the concept of attractive character. He has these figures. So he has like I'm guessing it's AI generated too, like a face, right? Which is like I don't know, it looks like an Irish person, like super redhead, big beard, all these things, right? But he has different like body postures, right? He has one that is like thinking, one that is like pointing at the screen, like a whole bunch of those. And the face, he has them in different ways as well. So he actually pops this figure during the video at plenty times, you know, and it kind of looks like that is the attractive character, you know, like that is the persona, but it's obviously not him. And he says that he uses voice. He built it with an AI tool as well. So he actually doesn't show up in the video at all. Not even his voice, not even nothing. But because of the way he edited, it looks like there's an actual attractive character in there, which is really cool. And I was reading one of the comments here. The second comment, it says, the effort you put in this video is huge. You know, we've been talking about it. AI is not just about like telling AI to do something, slap it together, and that's it. Like people can see and perceive the effort that went into this thing, right? And then it says, I'm curious to know how long did it take you to make this video? It took him a full week of work, full-time work, just 1 week, right?
That he dove into
this one video that is 5 minutes long. It's a 5-minute video that took him a 40-hour work week to create, right? That is huge. Like that, I mean, it talks about like AI. Without AI, it probably would have taken a little bit longer. So this is like a creation enablement tool, right? But at the end of the day, he was that architect that we're talking about.
The line of work that you're in, right? You obviously consume a ton of content. And obviously with the company that you work with, they're very involved with business. So what are some awesome trends of business content, right? Because a lot of people are like, wow, you know, business is either, you know, podcasting, interviewing other experts or people in my industry, right? And then there seems to be a big gap between that and like entertaining or edutaining content for your business on YouTube, whether that's like, you know, it could be like documenting the experiences, but if it's like a you know, kind of the office style office, it might be a little challenging to do something like that. So what are some of the more interesting trends that you've seen in that style of content?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the you know, like edutainment sort of movement that's going on right now. And I think I'll speak on the podcast side first, and then we can talk about YouTube. I think when we think about sort of the journey that the podcast industry has had, there are so many interview shows. And I think the business space specifically, when business podcasts started to become a thing, there's a really big focus on interview shows. And I think what I am loving that I'm seeing on the podcast side now is that there's less of a focus on interviews. There's still shows, like, I think for me, sort of my ideal show would be a mix of solo hosted interviews and a solo hosted content and interviews. What I think is difficult about interview shows in a long term is that the focus is always on the person that's being interviewed and it's never on the interviewer. And I think in the business space specifically, this can be really challenging. And what I love about shows that have a mix of solo hosted and interviews is that it gives their audience a chance to actually understand the person that's doing the interviews, how they think about business, what they've gone through, what their own business journey is, strategies and frameworks that they like, that they use in their own businesses. And that allows the audience to understand the interviews in a deeper way because they understand the view and the frameworks that the interviewer is bringing to that, right? So I think that just brings so much more depth to those interviews when they do happen. And the focus is more shared between the interview and the interviewee versus it always being about the guest. I think that depending on the guest to level up that content is, can be a lot more difficult of a battle. I think that there needs to be a little bit more authority on the interviewer side. So I love that there's less of a focus on just doing interviews now than there was before. When I think about one thing that I think that we're missing is I love like a panel hosted show. I think it's so fun to have there be. I think it can be really difficult to do it really well, but I think it is really fun to pick a topic or pick a couple of topics and have people that have different experiences or different thoughts about this and come together and like kind of have a debate. There's a show called Creator Debates that Justin Moore runs. He's a sponsorship coach for creators, and it's so funny because it's just like it's all about hot takes. It's all about getting like sort of challenging each other, but also being in a place of acceptance. And it's just such a different format. It's like reminds me sort of when we think about like Good Morning America or like other sort of popular TV shows that have a panel of hosts and they're constantly like bringing energy and different perspectives and, they have different interests. Like, I think that can make the content a lot more exciting. I think in the business space specifically, there's a lot of content that's like super, super tactical. And I think that's great. There's a huge audience of people that want really tactical information that they can listen to in 20 minutes and apply to their business. But when we think about podcasting outside of just the business space, like look at all of these purely entertainment shows that are all over TikTok that we see, right? Think about how those shows, why they're successful, how they're growing their audiences quickly. Clearly, they're doing something right. So I would love to see folks in the business space move a little bit more towards sort of that the mix between education and entertaining, because I think when we think about the digital landscape, there's so many different shows and creators and outlets and books and like we have so many options and so many different types of content to consume, how to consume it, people to listen to. Like, it's super overwhelming, right? And so I think now more than ever, especially with all this AI, with the AI boom going on, it's super important to understand like what is the audience you're reaching now? Who do you actually want to reach? And how do you continue as the digital landscape grows and grows and it gets harder and harder to compete for an audience? Like, what are you doing that's setting yourself apart, right? I think the rinse and repeat and doing what people have been doing before you can be really difficult when it comes to growth.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what we talked about is like that frictionless creation in a sense initially, right? To like, okay, let's pick one thing, one style, one platform, one thing to unlock publishing and consistency. And then as we start to execute, right, like something will have to change, right? Like, how do we elevate what we're already creating? Or something that I will encourage people to do is step back and look at your content as an ecosystem, right? And maybe it's an ecosystem per platform, right? Maybe like for us, for example, the podcasting is a non-negotiable because we developed relationships through the podcast. If the audience, is tuning in and enjoying, that's a massive plus. And we absolutely love you if you're listening and watching this. But for us, it's a selfish reason of like, let's develop the best relationships that we can with the people that we really want to meet. And these conversations will have some value, right? But then after that, it's like, okay, well, we can publish it or distribute it on audio and video or through YouTube, for example. But then YouTube has a place, and it's like YouTube specific type of content. So for example, when we were at the conference, people are like, well, you guys should do a video, because we're doing, after the equipment conversation, like $100, podcast mobile setup, for example, because, I was working with a camera that it turned out to be a prop. We didn't record anything, right? But people were like, what's all this thing? Like, it's amazing. Like, tell me what, and I'm explaining this, and she's like, do you guys have a YouTube video that I can find it? I'm like, oh, that's an opportunity, right? For example. And then, okay, that gets added into the content ecosystem. And then for short form, what are the things that we can do in short form? I like comedians a ton. I like to think that sometimes I'm funny. But can we do skits on podcasting, on content creation? Now that we have this physical location, can we explore that and be like, how can we entertain the people? And like at the end of the day, those will act as top of funnel for personality, like the people, and some of those will like trickle down to your other types of content, and then you will build trust with them, right? And at the end of the day, that's what's going to build. So as a brand or as a company, right, are you thinking about, hey, this is the one channel that we're going to invest our time and resources into? Like, at what level of investments are we? Like, are we just starting? Is this a piece of the puzzle? So I think that's super encouraging, because in my eyes, it brings more opportunity to try different things, and it allows you to try those things, right? Without like, okay, well, we thought that it was funny. Well, Luis ran out of jokes after the second clip, right? And perfect. We're not going to do that anymore, right? So I think it just gives us opportunity to try different things. And with a fast moving pace of content, it's okay. Put it out there. It will, die that down. And then as long as you endure long enough for you to get discovered, you're good to go, right? And then you will find your voice.
Yeah.
I think one of the most difficult things, and I spoke about this at Podcast Movement, is there's so many things. There's an overwhelming amount of noise about all of the things that we could be doing, should be doing, and like should not be doing. And I think it really comes down to, when you think about what are the resources and bandwidth that I have, what, like, out of this list of all of these things that have been identified or that I've identified for myself, what of those things is going to push me? What should I be doing now that's going to push me closer to hitting my goals? And what can I do later that maybe that won't directly contribute to whatever my goals are, that I can set aside, but that I want to explore later? And so I think having a deep understanding of like, this is the end, this is what I see myself, let's work backwards and figure out what the steps are along the way, while also keeping in mind, like, what time do I have, what resources do I have, what relationships do I have, how are all of those things in play and going to push me forward? I think there's always going to be an overwhelming amount of things to do, no matter what industry you're in. I think it's about identifying what is most important to you, what do you have the ability to do, where do you want to start, and then start. I also think that a lot of these things, including podcasting, really is a long game. And I think we saw a lot of this during like a really big podcast boom during the pandemic, where so many people started shows, and after 20 episodes, they said, oh, my show only has 100 downloads, so I'm going to stop doing it, right? And I think when we think about content, there's no one size fits all. And I think going into it with the mindset of like, most things that I try might not work for me, and that's okay. It's a fact that I'm trying these things and getting that feedback and using that to develop V2, V3, V4, V5, and continue that going is super, super important. And I think there's a lot of folks that struggle with having so many things that aren't giving them the results that they want, and walk away from it because they're not able, or they don't have the resources to iterate and keep going. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I give to creators all the time is, you're going to throw a lot of the spaghetti at the wall, and maybe some of the spaghetti is going to stick, and maybe the other 99 noodles won't stick, but maybe that one noodle that does stick is going to unlock all of these things for you. And so having that growth mindset and always always trying to identify and understand what's going to work for you, and implementing that is really the way to go. And obviously it's, it sounds a lot easier when you say it that way. It comes with an incredible amount of challenges and, things needed to be able to push your business in that way. But I always tell folks to not get disencouraged when they have something that doesn't go their way or how they think it should, or maybe several things. The best thing that we can do is continue to take learnings from those things and, keep going.
Sweet.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of elements to take into consideration when evaluating whether should I keep doing this or not. Like, are you talking to the right audience? Are you publishing in the right medium? Is the content good enough or not? Right. And, can have like a specific timeline on like, this is the right thing to do, yes or no, but definitely being patient and then testing maybe one thing at a time, and keeping track of those goals, whatever those goals are for you individually. I think that's important at the end of the day.
I think something that helped us big time when we were trying to figure out like what are we actually going to publish about was we did our challenge called 45 Live, which we decided to go live for 45 days, right? So it was kind of crazy. We put some rules in place where it's like, well, at least I put some rules in my flow where it was, okay, what's the time that I have during the day to do this? Like I have, 15 minutes. Sounds good. 5 will do like my research style, like what happened today, like breakdown. 5 minutes will be recording, and then 5 minutes will be distributing the thing, which was like pressing live, right? Or, I started putting it on LinkedIn too. So, in your business, what's your version of that? Like, what are you going to be doing for the next 30 days, 45 days that is going to unlock that for you? And let me tell you, the value there, yes, we got some views. Yes, we got some business out of it. But the real value is that you're going to start understanding yourself as a creator, right? If you've never done it. Even with the podcast, right? We talked about launching a local show here with the studio. And we're going through that process right now in our heads where it's like, how are we going to structure it? It cannot be like Contents Profit. For Contents Profit, we do it 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Can this be something that we record once a month? And then we start playing with the things, right? And we'll formulate a hypothesis of production and then a hypothesis of distribution. And then what's the desired outcome? And then we're going to readjust based on that. So it can apply at every level. But we learned through that 45 Live that we just wanted to jump on conversations 3 times a week. And we've done it for 434 episodes as in right now, which is crazy. It's been the most consistent thing that we've done other than practicing soccer. Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Certified. Carly, so by the way, monthly invitation to come to a show and riff about content and things that are happening in the industry.
Let's do it.
So 100%. What are some, last thoughts after, what you saw in the conference for content creators and business owners, right? What are some things or maybe advice that you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So many takeaways in terms of that. I mean, I think besides AI being the main product focus of Inbound, I think the other really special and beautiful part of the conference that I saw and that I've been aware of during my time at HubSpot is that community is super important. So when we think about HubSpot's business model and how Inbound runs, like there's tons of community meetups. There's a ton of activations. HubSpot creators, we had an activation and we had a setup where we were doing sessions. We had creator meetups. We had meet and greets. We were right across from the Black at Inbound activation, which was doing a lot of the same programming. We had, HubSpot has a ton of user groups that are led. And so there was meetups and breakfasts and all of that stuff. And I think as a business, we think a lot about how connection and community is really one of the most difficult things for businesses right now, especially in the digital age and the remote world. We talk a lot about the crisis of disconnection. And I think one of the most beautiful things about Inbound was seeing all of these different communities together, collaborating together, spending time with one another, creating content, having that experience of being together. And for there to be like cross-functional community work, I think is just a really great reminder of how important that is, even at a conference with over 10,000 people. That's still a really big priority. And so what I would say to folks is I think, and even I fall into this trap myself when I think about, I think about my network as the people that I talk to the most, or I guess that I interact with the most. But you have to think about all of the different touch points and all of the different ways that your network is so much bigger than you could ever imagine, you know? And so I think reframing your network or your personal network as actually your community and your peers is really going to change how you think about so many different things in your life. And I think especially for creators, and a lot of what I've heard from folks is it's really isolating to create content by yourself if you're not in a network, if you're not, you know, working with sponsors or, you know, entering an agreement where community is built in. And so I think creators are so siloed in many ways in the way that they work. They're maybe creating content by themselves. They maybe have a small team, but it can be really hard to create those connections. And so I think one of the best ways that creators can understand more about themselves and their businesses and also change the way that they view their content is by finding and investing in a community. I know we spoke a lot about this in the last episode, so I'd recommend checking that out. But you would be surprised, you know, when you need that community will stand for you, and you want to make sure that, you know, you have that in place. So community is everywhere. There's communities for everything. Communities want to support you. They want to welcome you. You have advice that you can give. You have so much you can learn. Invest in building that community around yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's go.
Well said.
Carly,
Well said.
MVP of the show. Fonzie, any last thoughts that you want to share?
No, I'm excited that you came here again. I think we definitely should do this more often. Maybe we bring some topics, have some debates.
Let's do it. I'd love to do some debates. Yeah, if anyone has anything they'd like us to debate about, leave a comment and let us know, and we can hash it out on the next one.
Let's go. Absolutely. Send that over on the website. You can go to beastbros.co, and there's like a contact us form there. Send a question. Send us on social media. We'll bring it up, and we'll talk about those things. Carly, super important question. How's paintball going? Are you winning? Are you crushing the league?
Yeah. So league just started again last week, 2 weeks ago. So I'm early in. Everything's going well so far. I think the finals for this season are in November. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to qualify for the finals. So keep you updated.
Let's go. That's awesome. All right, guys. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BeastBrosCo.
That is Ryan and Carly here, helping you move one step closer towards your goal. Please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Let's go.
Bye, guys.
See ya.